This November 6th, be sure to support and vote for John Dennie. John Dennie, he has been in the community, had his boots on the ground with us since day one. When the police killed Eric Garner down on Bay Street, he hasn't missed a beat. We should be supporting people that are here for our community, not people that look the other way and let injustices go on. John Dennie, vote John Dennie for Assembly.
For those of you who don't know me, I am old school, and to the older ones, I am sister, and to the younger ones, I am Aunt Shirley from the Forgotten Borough of Staten Island. And I am here to endorse my vanilla brother from another mother.
My sister from another mister.
John Dennie. Yes, he is the one. He has been out here. Like Sister Ty has said from the very beginning, he is here for the community. He deserves to be here for us just like we deserve him. We need to have somebody in here who's real, who's committed, who's looking at what the problems are and addressing them. Not just saying, hey, you know what, I want to throw my hat in and see what I could do and make a difference. No, you got to show that you've been making a difference. And he has been making a difference since day one. He has been out there for Eric, not only Eric, but all type of racism and police brutality here on Staten Island. He has been out here for housing. There is a problem with housing here on Staten Island. There is a divide here on Staten Island. He has to be out here for everybody. He has to be out here for not only the North Shore that has even in its divide. We have to come together and be out here for anybody who needs any type of support and recognize that everybody needs support. Peace.
Thank you, Shirley. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Vote John Dennie.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
And tell us who this child is. Don't assume everybody know because they should, but they
The
don't.
words up
Peter,
there.
I'll put the words up there.
Okay.
This is Legacy Garner. This is Eric Garner, youngest
Youngest
child. She's 4 years old, and she's here to support John Dennie.
There you go.
This is a shirt.
Also, what we want to say is, although we stand for the fact that Black Lives Matter and we support Black people in our community, we're not going to be blinded just because you're Black and running for this position. Honestly, John Dennie is the best candidate because he's been there and he's put in the work. So let's give him what he earns and deserves.
That's right.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. So I'm Hugo Duran. I'm a Staten Island resident. And a lot of people have been talking about the 2016 election. When something incredible happened. A man named Bernie Sanders ran for president. And they've been talking about why he lost. But they're always blaming voters or, some other reason. They don't focus on the money that flows into elections. And soon after Bernie Sanders announced that he was running, a lot of money went into the presidential elections for both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. You had the Koch brothers donating to, Trump. You had the Bush family donating to Clinton. People like, I think his name is Kagan, who worked for the CIA, who said that the neoliberal party will basically be the new neoconservative party if they'll pass policies that Hillary Clinton supports. And if her record shows, he said, that the Democrats, they won't call it neoconservative. They'll call it something else. Those are his words. And so, saying all of that, Bernie Sanders would have won if the DNC, the Democratic Party, didn't try to sabotage his campaign, and also if you focus on the money. And this has been happening in the country for decades. There's a book written by somebody, I think his name is author, I'm not sure of his last name, but it's called The Greatest Show on Earth. It was written in the 1970s, and it talked about beginning in the 1950s how the candidate who raises the most money is the candidate who wins. And it actually occurs till this day. And this book was written like close to the 80s and talks about the election since the 1950s. So till this day, that's exactly what happens. And so this is why I'm out here in support of John Dennie. He's basically Staten Island's Bernie Sanders, is what I just called him earlier, because he will, work for the public, work for the people, And this is why we need volunteers, because we don't have the funds. We need people to donate and people to come out in support if they really want to change their communities. We need to stop the two-party system. As I mentioned, that's where the money focuses on. That's why things never change. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak?
My name is Angelo D'Angelo. I know John for many, many years. We met originally about 40 years ago, fighting against the war in Vietnam. And then I came in contact with him again recently. John is what Bertolt Brecht, the famous German poet, what he said, there are those who struggle one day of their life, and they are good people. There are those who struggle for 2 or 3 years of their life, and they are very good people. But there are those who struggle their whole life, and that's John. Struggle the whole life for justice, peace, justice, and equality. Those people are the indispensable ones, and John is indispensable, let me tell you. I'm also a retired member of the United Federation of Teachers, and John has worked with us to distribute articles and papers against the Janus case in the Supreme Court. So John is not a one-dimensional man. He's involved with labor, peace, racial equality, and economic justice. So he's indispensable, and that's why I'm here to support John. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Angel. Anybody else? Okay. I guess I'm up. I'm trying to figure out who this guy, John Dennie, they're talking about. Doesn't sound like me. I don't know, man. He sounds like a pretty good guy. Anyway, why am I running? I'm 76 years old. I'm a retired postal worker. Why at this time of my life, when I could be sitting in the park, feeding the squirrels and feeding the pigeons, do I decide to go out and run for the assembly? There's a lot of reasons. I have positions on just about every issue that can come before the assembly, and some that I want to bring before the assembly. You can find those on my website, dennie4assembly.wordpress.com. I want to use this time to speak about only 2 issues, because these 2 issues are actually the reason I'm running. And my number 1 issue, tomorrow, we're going to commemorate 4 years since Eric Garner was murdered down on Bay Street. His murderer walked free from a grand jury, Daniel Pantaleo. In 2015, a bill was introduced in the Assembly by my opponent, Mike Cusick's Democratic colleagues, Matt Titone and Diane Savino. That bill would have opened up grand jury minutes in all cases where a police officer kills an unarmed civilian and a grand jury does not vote an indictment. My opponent, Mike Cusick, who, by the way, he's a Democrat. He calls himself a conservative Democrat. He voted no on that bill. He voted with the Republicans against his Democratic colleagues on Staten Island. He voted to keep the minutes secret, and he's quoted in the advance as saying he thought the case was handled just about right. Well, I don't agree with that. And if I'm elected, you can be damn sure that I will spend the majority of my time in the Assembly trying to get that bill reintroduced and trying to get it passed. Will it bring justice for Eric? No, but it will bring a tiny bit of justice, and there hasn't been any so far. And one of the big injustices is that murderer Pantaleo is collecting his full salary plus overtime after brutally murdering Eric. We all saw it on Ramsey's video. He's going to talk about one other issue, which has been my issue for many, many years. Many years. And that's Section 210 of New York State's Taylor Law. If you know me, you know I'm a unionist. I'm union through and through. not just my union, and not just unionized workers, but all workers. And if you work for the city, state, or a county in New York, and you go out on strike, your union can be fined millions, and you can be fined 2 days' pay for every day you go out. It's called Section 210 of the Taylor Law. It was invoked in 2005 when the transit workers went out. Their local TW 100 was fined millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. They lost their dues check-off. That law, after that strike in 2005, the union president, Roger Toussaint, took the case to the UN. The UN held hearings over a period of time, and it finally issued a report that said that in the opinion of the UN, the International Labor Organization, which is an agency of the UN, in their opinion, Section 210 of the Taylor Law is a violation of a basic human right. It is a basic human right. All workers have the right to collectively withhold their labor, except in New York, if you're a civil service employee employed by the state or the city. It's a matter of justice. They have that right. They have the right to strike. And no corrupt gang up in Albany can take that away from them. Now this issue, I've been told, is a dead issue. There was legislation introduced many years ago to repeal that law. It went nowhere, didn't even make it to committee. So again, if you send me to the assembly, my number 2 issue, after trying to get the grand jury minutes open, will be to reopen the case for repeal of New York's Taylor Law. Why? Because it's a matter of justice. Thank you. And thanks to all my friends, family, for coming out here. I appreciate it. Thank you.